Hey guys, it's Brian from Arrowhead Garage, and thank you so much for joining me this week. We've been going back through the old videos when we first picked up the 1967 Pontiac Firebird 400 and brought it from Oklahoma to Arizona, and with a busted ankle in 3 spots and a bunch of screws and bolts, I'm not working, so money's a little tight right now. So if you want, I have a bunch of shirts that you guys can buy. There's a link down below. This is one of them, first generation garage shirts. Also have the American flag using the silhouette of the cars. And of course the first generation 3 front ends that are all uniquely different. There's a bunch of shirts besides these. There's the big 400 shirt. Guys, help support the channel. Help keep me going while I'm off my feet and out of work. There's a link down below. Check out your shirts and grab yourself one. Now, with that being said, today's show is amazing. This is when we first got that Chevy 350 to fire up and run on its own in the Firebird. Now, I understand it's a Chevy 350 in it when we picked it up. That is no longer. It is gone. Now there's a poncho motor in it today. But back then, we had that Chevy 350, and we wanted to get it running and started. So this video today is walking you back through that process. I think you're going to like it. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fire. So make sure to stay around and watch the entire video. And guys, when you watch the entire video and you don't skip around, the more time you watch, the more ad revenue YouTube gives me. So I'd appreciate if you just hit play, kick back, relax, watch it. If you have to go do something, go do it, but leave that video play. Help me out until I can get back on my feet and back in the garage wrenching. So with that, let's shut it up and let's get to watching this episode. Okay, man, we got our intro, we got our outro, we talked about shirts, we talked about watching the whole video and not skipping around. Now we just need kisses, lots of kisses, Maggie, lots of kisses. You want to do this with Dad? You want to watch the show with Dad? Come on, why don't you sit down with Dad and let's watch this episode together, and we'll make comments and we'll make remarks and we'll have some fun revisiting. This is before you came along. This is when your big sister Sierra was here and she helped Dad in the garage. Now you get to help me in the garage. Yes, 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 she's a good girl. Okay, let's get to watching this episode. All right, good girl, good girl. Okay, come over here. Hey guys, it's Brian and welcome back to Firebird Fridays. Today, we're making a list of what it's going to take the Firebird for just a drive around the block by the end of the year. That's kind of the goal. Just to jump in it, fire it up, be able to back it out of the driveway, take it around the block, and then pull it back in so we can do more work. Just to have something to kind of bring this crazy year together and everything. So I took some paper I had laying around and... Don't you just love the Coors Light boxes that we use all the time around here? And this is not to daily driver, but just enough to get it to where we can take that one little initial drive before we really start to tear into stuff and systems. So let's dig in and let's find out what's on this list. All right, well, first things first, we're going to have to rebuild that carb. It needs the linkage, it needs the bowls redone, it needs all the new gaskets. So I've ordered a set rebuild kit coming. It should be here soon, so we'll make a video on that. Next I'm going to do is the installation of the power steering system. Now you notice in a video, and I'll link it up here, where we pulled off the power steering box and we're going to rebuild it, and hopefully we'll get to that today in this video. Yeah, we're not rebuilding anything. We just went and bought a new one. That thing was rusted up. We need to fix the outer tie rods. If you remember in the very first video, which I will also link to the very first video when we picked up the 67 Firebird, the power steering was locked up, so we couldn't even move the wheel, so we had to break loose those outer tie rods in order to move our wheels to get the Firebird up onto the trailer. So we need to get those fixed. Now we're not going to completely put new tie rods on, just reattach them. Which, thinking back on it, we probably should have left the tie rods alone and just come along that vehicle up on the trailer. So next on our list is to hook up the fuel tank line. Remember in the beginning we were running a container of fuel in a pickle jar in order to get the car running. We eventually want to get gas in the gas tank out back, and so we want to make sure that fuel line is good, make sure that gas tank is clean, there's nothing in it. So we'll have to clean up that gas tank. Second thing is the seats don't have any sliders or any rails. We're just sitting right on the sheet metal. So we're going to have to find ourselves Seats have sliders and rails. Just didn't see them because they're itty bitty on a Firebird. Around the block. Next is to fix the rusted brake lines. When we were pulling the tie rod ends, and that really all the fur brakes needed to be redone after sitting for 25 years in Oklahoma. So brake job. Those are cheap. Should be for a GM car. The drum brakes. We'll get 2 new of those. We'll put those on. That'll probably be our next video after that. Next part is checking the transmission. Make sure there's fluid in it. Make sure that it's a decent color. Just kind of go through, make sure everything's hooked up for that. Remember, we're missing a shifter, so we need a shifter. Make sure there's fluid in the rear diff. So that way, at least we have brake fluid, we have transmission fluid, we have engine oil, we have everything. All the fluids are topped off and ready to go before we take this Firebird for its initial run around the block before we really start tearing into it. On Firebird, the steering wheel is locked up. Yeah, you can see that steering wheel. That was locked up. You couldn't turn the wheels at all. So, or tilt. And look at the shifter cord. That's how we picked it up. There was no shifter mechanism there anywhere. So let's go check that out. All right, 11/16 for both of these. Okay, let's pull out the steering box. Get a crow's foot in there, and out we go. Pull this one up and out of the way. We're gonna get new hoses, so. And again, that was never even hooked up to the power steering pump. I believe it's more like a 5/8, but let's get that one off next. Okay, now if that's loose, we can pull this one up and out. And this one might still be attached. That one there is still attached on there, so we'll get that later. Just pull this off to the side here. Okay. Next is I believe that's going to be like a 11mm bolt right there that holds that on. Yeah, that bolt that holds the steering column to the box, it's like a 12-point star looking bolt on that. To the box. I believe that is a 11mm maybe. Again, working with metric tools until I get my Christmas present with my standard tools. Kick that bolt out, and then we'll attack those other ones. All right, here we go. And out that. Yeah, look at that thing. I know what that looks like. Hey, that's a 12-pointer. So now that's done. Now we got to take off the 2 bolts. Get to that rag joint back down in there. Yeah, those 2 bolts in there. All right, here we go. And again, trying to do this with one hand and hold a extra camera phone that I had making these early videos was a struggle. There's probably any tripods or anything. Okay, that's what came out. Let's grab that other one real quick. Okay, next, take off the steering box. We need to pull those 3 big bolts there in the frame is what holds that steering box on. Brake line is in the way, so we have to pull that bracket off in order to access. Let's get those 3 bolts out of the way. This pump or the box should just drop. Okay, 2 are out. We'll take this one out. Get to that 1 bolt because the steering column was locked over there, but I could only take off one side of the rag joint because the other one was against the fender, and there was no way I can get in there to grab it. So look, it moves freely now. So you know it's a steering box, not the steering column. That's the problem. Now we need to pull off that pitman arm down below so we can pull this all the way out. So the idler arm, which is that right there, that nut is one big ass nut. It must be like a 32mm or something, which I don't have. The other spot to be able to pull it off would be where it connects into the steering linkage. And yeah, that bolt, or that nut I should say, that holds that on, it's like an 1.25 inch, 1/8. Big ass socket needed for that. Box completely out of the car. Let's see if we can't do that. All right, so we got that off. Now, Get ourselves our Pitman arm puller and get it up in there. We can pull this arm off. Okay, so that there is going to be our Pitman arm puller. You basically rent this. So you got to take that off because that is attached to the bottom side of the power steering box. So it's got to come off. Pretty simple to do though, as you can see. And then you're just going to take an impact or just hand crank it, and you'll eventually just pop that right off. Let me show you. Okay, I have my cordless impact that my amazing wife got me for Father's Day this year. And we're just going to go ahead and take this right off. Watch. See? Now, I didn't get a chance to film this, but I just reached in with two hands and pulled that. Yeah, there was no way to film that. I just reached in, grabbed it, and pulled that big honking piece of metal out. Get outside and I'll show you what this thing looks like. Alright, so here's the steering box out of Firebird. You can see it has 50 some years of grime and dirt. This is the spot where you can see it won't even turn, so I can only imagine how bad that in there is. Well, so it's either going to rebuild this on our own or get a replacement. So I just want to show this to you. Henceforth, the reason why this thing is not moving. Yeah, that's not what you're supposed to see in a steering box. No, negatory. Well, I guess it's time for a new steering box. Yeah, that must have had some kind of water seepage in there all that time. Well, so much for rebuilding that power steering and gearbox. It's going to be best just to go ahead and use it as a core and get us a fresh one and put it in here. And get a new pump as well, new lines. So, I guess next we should probably turn our attention to the front brakes, at least the brake lines on this car. And let me show you what those things look like. So, well, that's what they should look like, but more than likely those are the original rubber hoses from 1967 on this Firebird. Completely gone. So we're going to get in there and I'll show you how to take them off and how to put the new ones on. And while we're in there, we'll do a little bit of inspection on the drums. This car has drums all the way around, which probably won't stay that way for too long. Once I get everything up and running, I'll probably convert to disc, at least to the front. Oh yeah, we're converting to disc next year. And get these repaired, and while we're in there, we'll go ahead and inspect the rest of the brake shoes and brake drums and see how they're looking before we get started. So let's get to doing that. Alright, so first thing I want to do is put in some penetrating oil on where the hose is attached to the drum, or to the slave cylinder, or the cylinder I should say. And let it be known that I think the front drum brakes on these first gen F-body cars, how they designed them and where they place the bleeder nipple and the inlet there, complete garbage. Hate them. Hate them. And how this hose attaches to the front wheel, yeah, not a big fan. And then over here, this is how the rubber hose attaches to the hard line. And I just didn't have a flared wrench small enough in order to attack that. Again, I'm still working with all metric tools. Hopefully Santa Claus will bring me a set of new SA sander tools. So I did was able with the vice grip to get in there and get that off. And so there we go. Borrowed that from the neighbor. I was just tired. I didn't want to mess it up any more than I had to, because one thing I do not want to do is have to redo all the brake lines, which I'm thinking I'm going to have to eventually at some point. So off this comes little by little. Oh yeah, we did a complete rebuild on the drum brakes front and back. Must be the original brake hoses from 1967, the way they looked, and both sides completely broke in half by the time we were done. So we'll lift this up, we'll disengage it, we'll take off that small little half-inch bolt that holds the bracket to the frame, and we'll get to putting on brand new rubber hoses for our 67 Firebird project here. Yeah, I figured since we were here, might as well go ahead and pop off this dust cap and take a look at the wheel bearings for the front hubs. And little by little, just work. There's no way to get the hub off unless you take off that axle nut. It's been on there for a while, so plenty of grease inside. It looked fresh, looked good grease. I'm thinking, I'm assuming that my brother had done this 25 years ago in hopes of driving the car, and then life happened and it sat. So it has probably 0 miles on that grease. I was just amazed at how clean the grease was and how fresh it was appearing. Go ahead and pull that cotter pin out for us real quick here, and we can take off that big axle nut and get it out. All right, and she should come out now, and a little bit of effort, there she is. And always replace that cotter pin with a new one. All right, now, kind of just wanted to look it over real quick before I pulled that nut off, give it a couple taps, kind of loosen up. One of the things I dislike about drum brakes is how after they've been sitting for a while, they will tend to rust into place. So it feels good. I feel like there's a little bit of movement and play. We should be good. So grab the socket and my cordless impact that the wifey got me for Father's Day, and we pulled that nut right off, and now we can pull the hub completely off. Make sure to grab that outer wheel bearing and washer. There we go. And again, I was just amazed at how fresh the grease looked on the bearing. This car must have just had its brakes redone before my brother parked it. It didn't have any mileage on it, apparently. So, taking the hub off, slowly but surely, kind of take a look at our brakes and our shoes and our springs. I find myself jiggling back and forth as I watch the video. And plenty of thickness on the pads for me. I haven't had a chance to look up the specs on what the thickness should be for those, but we will. And simply got in there with some brake cleaner and just cleaned things off to kind of assess what was going on and look around a little bit. And here comes the puppy, and of course, trying to keep her away from this nasty brake cleaner. But inspecting it, and it looks good. There, I didn't see any real issue. I checked for any scoring on. Yeah, all clean, almost all looking brand new. Nice and smooth, no gouging, no anything. So I'm pretty confident that the front wheel bearings and everything else will be fine. Turning our attention to the back, though, that's a different story. So there's no axle nut to take off to get the hub off the back. So did my normal thing, just pound on it a little bit and try to move it, and it would not move. It just... Those suckers are on tight. Pounded on this thing. Came from the back side, hit it from the front, hit it from the side. It was probably a good 15 to 20 minutes of just little by little, eighth of an inch here, 16th of an inch of movement. And eventually, effort and probably a beer or two, finally got this thing off. And you can see it had just sat and had rusted itself onto that back hub. And the parking brake could have been on, which I went to release the parking brake, but the parking brake handle is missing. And I'm not even sure the parking brake is even engaged. Because there's no parking brake handle, it's a foot brake. But here we go, we finally get that thing off. We can inspect it and see what she looks like in there. Well, everything looked all right. And I'm trying to spin those, trying to figure out if I have a positive rear end or not. And I'm like, wait a minute, this thing is supposed to be in park, and I should not be able to turn this hub this way. So I need to spend some more time on the transmission, but that'll be for another day. So again, just clean it up. Again, the pad thickness, the shoes still had plenty of meat on them. I'm eventually probably going to have to get in there and just replace all those springs, replace those wheel cylinders, and get all that... wound up replacing all the wheel cylinders, all the springs, new pads, shoes, and new hubs. You can see the new line. It's not quite as long as the old line, but hopefully that won't cause a problem in our turning radius when it comes time to drive this car. So let's get the new one in and see how she looks real quick here. All right, so here is on the brake side of the wheel side. We're going to take the hose and twist it on or screw it into the hole there. And again, that was a 16 millimeter head on that. We'll get in there. It was tough to film and get it in there, but we did get it screwed in. Next is the brake line where it attaches to the frame and where it attaches then to the hard line. And I didn't screw it down all the way just because those other bolts you see there is where the steering box goes on the other side of the frame. So, so I had left the bolts in the frame while the steering box was off the car. And then I can eventually, when it comes time to get that new power steering gearbox, I can install it without too much effort and too much fuss. So we got that into place. All right, guys, moment of truth. Let's see how much play we have in these hoses. And it looks like it's tight, but it's not putting a bind or anything on the new brake hoses. And again, right now I don't have the tie rods connected to the hubs and spindles, so they have full movement. Yeah, they're just free playing. They're just pushing back and forth. There was no tension on the brake line, so I think we're good. Those are going to work out for us. And speaking of which, I guess now we need to get some nuts on some tie rods. And I really tore these tie rods up trying to get them off in that field or that backside of the house there in Oklahoma a couple months ago. You can see the tie strip right there. We had to attach it, but threads are kind of messed up. So. And again, I wish I would have known better, but when we did pick the car up, my thought was if we can't steer the car, how are we supposed to get on the trailer? But we were able to take the trailer and just back it up directly and come along. But then the wheels would go wonky like this after it attached them. So it's probably smart to just left them alone to get it up on the trailer, but here we are. And of course, I did go back and rebuild the entire front suspension with all new ball joints, all new tie rod ends, everything. All right, guys, I know it's not all the way down. We're not going to put a cotter pin in this. It'll hold. It'll hold for, what, 200-300 miles tops? At least around the block. Well, let's turn our attention. Let's get some fluid into the reservoir here for the power brakes. And, man, if this thing was completely bone dry, which you would expect for a car that's been sitting for 25 years with broken rubber brake hoses, nasty junk down in there. So went ahead and just blew it out with my air compressor, cleaned it out, kind of took a rag down in there and just wiped up anything I could, and just went over to the shelf and grabbed some DOT3 brake fluid to pour in there, kind of get that. Yeah, that was damn near empty, the reservoir was, both of them. And sit in the old Firebird and do the manual pumping of the brake pedal while I start to do the brake bleeding on the car. But I think I'm going to need a beer before I get to the next part of this job, because taking those hubs off was a pain in the ass. Thank you so much. And we also have a Patreon, which I'll talk about more later. But thanks so much. Let's get back to working on the 67 Firebird and getting this list going so we can drive this car for the first time, hopefully, by the end of the year. And I did. This was about 9 videos that I stitched together to do this video for you guys. Now it's time to go look at the gas tank and see how much crud is in this gas tank. Do I replace it right now, or can I fill it with gas? Let's go take a look. This camera inside the 67 Firebird's gas tank to see if it's clean or not. So let me get it set up here. You can see I got the phone right there on the car, and then we're just gonna slide it in there and see what we can find. This thing is way cool. It has a light on it, so it can light up things. It kind of reminds me of another time I did something like this, but I wasn't holding the camera. Somebody else was. Last year, that's also on this channel, but it's really cool and it's cheap. It's like 15 bucks or something for this camera. So let's go in and let's take a look at what the gas tank looks like on the 67 Firebird. For the most part, it looks pretty clean. It looks silver. It looks shiny. I was expecting just, varnish and brown and golden gunk everywhere. But as I moved the camera in and moved it around and tried to explore what I could, it looks all... Look how shiny that pump was. Or I shouldn't say pump. I should say the sending unit on that one.
life happened and something, and he never got
Yeah, he
back.
must have replaced the gas tank in this thing,
Passing
because
around
when I
the
pulled the
information.
gas tank a
So
couple months later, when we're
my
doing the whole
view from this
restoration of the
camera
car,
using
that
the
gas tank was damn near
device, I think we're
spotless
good to go in there. Pretty
inside.
clean. There's no smells of bad gas or anything. So I think we checked the tank off as a problem area, and let's move on to those fuel lines. All right, so here underneath the tank itself, the 67 Firebirds, I believe the AC cars and the big 400s had a return line on the fuel tank. So it did have it, but obviously at some point in time, someone capped it off or vented it off to where it doesn't work and just put a bolt into the tube there to where it doesn't hook back up to those lines. The other line is obviously hooked up, but look at the rubber on this hose. Yeah, I'm thinking we need to get rid of that. So I went ahead and removed that first line. This is the main 3/8 line, the fuel feed, not the return line. The other one, the smaller one that we're going to leave alone, it's up front and it's actually been pinched off over by the AC, so we're fine. Here's a look at 50-year-old rubber. Who knows? But yeah, that's history. It's out.
That could have been original.
All right. Next thing I want to do is I want to hook up a tube, a hose to the
So now what I want to do is I just want to clean those lines out to make sure if there is any gunk left in those lines, they're as clean as I can get them before we start running gas through it.
and then we're going to clean it out several times with some carburetor cleaner just to see what we could do. And here's my world famous pickle jar that I like to use, and we get pickles all the time, so I have tons of empty jars. So with that in, let's head to the front of the car and let's blow out this line real quick here.
There's my 67
So I
Porsche.
hooked up the air compressor, and I'm going to go ahead and just pull it off from the pump and shoot it straight back. And this was just straight air, just to kind of clean out what we could. I had it cranked up all the way to
On that line,
150 psi
backwards
on my
first.
system. Then we're going to add some carb cleaner, and we did this several times.
And now I went back and forth and blew that line more than just one time. I probably had done it probably 3 or 4 times.
Get it in there nice, a little bit more, a little more, good, good. Then we hook up the air hose again, and we blow it out. This time, wow, check this out. Whoa, that's some pressure there. But it cleaned out our fuel lines. Not a problem after that. Pretty happy, pretty confident that all the fuel lines are good. So next was to replace that short little hose underneath the gas tank here.
Okay.
So I'll get
Clean
in
fuel
there
system.
and get that positioned from the fuel tank line to the new hard line. Good to go. We are set. I think we can start to scratch off our list of things on the fuel system. I think we're pretty much golden. I am going to switch out the fuel filter that is up by the carb, and I'm going to put in an actual fuel pressure gauge so we can kind of keep an eye on what our pressure is for when we go down the pressure.
That never happened. I never did install that fuel pressure gauge, even though I have it, and it's on the wall in the garage.
Let's see where we're at. All right, so looking over our list, yep, got to rebuild the carburetor, got to take out the power steering, yep, all right, hook up fuel lines, clean them out, check, we got that done. Oh, what's next? Let's do the rear diff. Let's check out that rear diff. Let's get in there and let's find out what's going on. So in the Pontiac Firebirds, the drain plug, or the fill plug, I should say, is on the side on the passenger, and you just take a 3/8 inch ratchet and it will stick the head of it in there, and it will actually unscrew it. Now this had 25, 30, 40, 50 years worth of grime and dirt from Oklahoma all over the pumpkin. So I just took a few minutes to clean it off, see if I can get it in there. And the one thing you want to do before you pull the cover is make sure you can get the fill plug out. So don't do anything until you can get this done.
Yeah, if you can't remove the fill plug, don't remove the black belt plate. You won't be able to fill it back up.
where if that hole isn't 100% clean and you stick the ratchet in there to try to get it and it's not seated fully implanted, you can actually screw up the opening, and then you're left taking a chisel and trying to chisel out that plug. So take a minute, grab a beer, take a
Yeah,
pick,
done that a
get
time or
underneath
two.
there, spend some time, and get it cleaned out. So with that cleaned out, let's get our 3/8" ratchet in there, and let's get this off. Go ahead and wish me luck. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that actually turned pretty easily. I was amazed
I think we're good to go on that.
after sitting for 25 years that
Now that
just
I got
went
that
whoop.
cracked off, I can just reach up there and start to unscrew that fill plug. Let me get it out here. And I'll take a moment and I'll clean it off before I reinstall it. But my main goal is to make sure there's fluid in there. So stick your finger in, and if you just kind of dip your
Yeah,
finger
just stick your
down,
finger in there, kind of dip it
you should
like
be
that,
touching fluid.
and if you should be able to touch fluid, then that means it's full.
There is a gear oil in there.
And
It is
smell it,
sticky and smells,
taste it.
but it is full.
Don't
and it
taste it.
looks good for what
Don't
you're doing.
taste it.
So I just cleaned off the fill plug. I'm going to screw it back in there and tighten it up, and we're going to check this off on our list. Eventually, we probably will pull that pumpkin cover and drain the fluid and refill it.
Never did. Never changed the fluid in there. So something we're gonna have to do this winter.
Firebird here. So let's just get this tight, and we'll move on to what's next on our list. All right. Let's see here. Yes, yes, yes. We still have to go to those things. They're just like beaming at me, like do them, do them. But I have to wait for parts, and I hate it. All right, so let's check.
I'd never rebuilt a carburetor before, so I was a little stressed and a little nervous about rebuilding a carburetor.
So I understand to check an automatic transmission fluid, and this is a TH350 in the car, you need to have the motor on and running at operating temperature, but we can't do that. So we're just going to pull the dipstick
Remember,
really
you
quick
have
here
that,
and take a look at the fluid, see how much is in there, see how clean it is, and that's about all.
Remember, you have that torque converter that you have to fill up. So if you've been sitting for a while, it's probably drained out.
Looks like we're good to go.
And the only way to get that to fill up is the pump, which then has to be moving the transmission.
So back to the list, and again, I know that gotta wait for parts, and I hate waiting for parts. So let's go ahead and let's cross off. Oh, now seat sliders. I still need seat sliders, guys. If you have them for sale, please let me know.
Don't need to, I have them. They were there. I just didn't see them.
We got that done. We fixed the brake lines or the fuel lines. We got this part done now. All right, cool. Well, little by little, and we have a few more videos to go by the end of the year, but I'm really confident we can get the 67 Firebird driving by the end of the year.
All right, so I'll speed through this. I made a whole 1 hour long video where it's step by step by step on how to tear apart one of these Edelbrock Carter type carburetors and rebuild it. And honestly, after I was done rebuilding this carburetor, I had all this confidence, and it wasn't that bad. It's just time consuming. Like I said, it took a full hour. Maybe would have been less if I didn't have to, do camera work and blah blah blah. But still, not that bad of a job. If you've never tackled rebuilding a carburetor, it's not that hard. Get a good kit, a quality kit, not a Chinese kit. Get an actual Edelbrock kit or a Holley kit. And there's tons of videos online. You can watch mine, and you'll have the confidence to go in and rebuild your carburetor and get it back up to snuff. Yeah, that's all I can say about that. Easy to do. Just takes time, man. Just takes time. So let's get this back together and let's put it back on the car. And it's self-explanatory. I mean, you start looking at things, you're like, yeah, this gasket can only go on one way, and this gasket only goes one way. And it's really quite hard to mess things up. And as long as you remember, you're dealing with pot metal, so don't over tighten anything. It's not that bad of a job. And when you're done, you have such a better understanding of the carburetor and what it does and how it works, that when things go wrong, your brain goes back to doing this part. And you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, no, not that. Aha. That's probably what it is. That is probably the biggest thing I gained off of rebuilding the carburetor in this 67 Pontiac Firebird. And again, it's an aftermarket Edelbrock. It wasn't the original Carter that came with it. But the Edelbrock is what it had, and that's what I had to deal with, and that's what I rebuilt. And you get to watch that. I remember when we first pulled that carb off the manifold, that gasket was already busted. That's what gave us our bit of whoosh, plus probably 180 out as well. And I probably should have bought new floats, but I didn't. Eventually, who knows where we're going to go with this. I may not even keep the Edelbrock down the road, but for now, it runs, it drives the car just fine with that Pontiac 350 that's on it today. Yeah, talk about a feeling of accomplishment after you get this all put back together and it fires up for you. Yeah, big time confidence builder. Your wife will notice it too, trust me. And we've checked the rear diff and we know that's good. So let's take care of our seat rails. So here are two seats. Okay, it's time for seat rails.
We do have the rails, although they are pretty rusty.
They're right there, just smaller than what I was looking for.
Blaster and squirt in there to lube them up. And over on this side here, and they're just so low, it doesn't really raise the seat up that high. So it acted like we were just sitting on the floor, but actually. So we're gonna lube those up, and we're gonna bolt them down. And oh, check this out. So obviously I'm missing the bolt.
This is a big deal to me, and it still is.
These from these guys right here, NPD, and can you look at that without focusing? Made in the USA. Frickin', are you serious? It's awesome. That was one of my biggest concerns with this build, is finding American.
National Parts Depot was the first catalog company that I reached out to and requested a catalog to send me a catalog. It must have been here within 2 or 3 days. It was like, bam, there's that catalog.
We need to stop this China thing. We need to get back to doing stuff ourselves. So I'm glad to see this. So let's take our American Bolt.
We need to get back to manufacturing our own stuff.
Hey, you. If you're just going to stand there and not help out, take a minute and at least hit the like button down below and hit the subscribe button. And yeah, why don't you make a comment? Tell me what you're doing and how good I'm doing. Something. Help out a little bit.
Slackers. I used to do these kind of like little intros or little commercials all the time. I need to get back to doing that.
Grab 2 for now, and let's get this thing started. So there's holes in the floor here where the brackets are supposed to go. So let's line those up, and we'll tighten these down, see what happens. Okay, so I got the passenger seat in, all 4 bolts, but I think on this driver's side, I'm going to take our bolts and just kind of use them before we put the seat in. Just kind of clean out
chase the threads, make sure those threads are all nice and clean.
After 20-some years of dirt,
took an air blowgun and just blew all the holes out first. Probably should have given them just a little bit of WD-40, but I ran them down dry. It was fine.
Just run those down, and then we'll grab that seat and we'll pop it in, and I'll show you a few tricks that I learned on how to do that. Well, crank that up. We got both seats in now. They're in nice and tight. The biggest thing I can tell you guys is make sure you got your tracks aligned on both sides. That's probably the biggest thing I can tell you. Once those are aligned, then you can get these in, put 2 in like the back, slide it forward, put the 2 front ones in, and then kind of just shimmy it to get it to sit right, and then you should be ready to go. So now we have seats. Woo! We can now one step closer to driving this girl. Let's go back to the list and see what's next.
That was a big deal to get the seats bolted down.
Obviously.
we had to count the number of turns. The cool part is whoever rebuilt the box for us put a little white dot here on the pitman arm shaft and a little white dot up on the actual gear itself. So they kind of line up. And you notice the vice grip here all the way to one lock. So it's the steering box has been rotated all the way to one side. And it's showing at about 1 o'clock. So if we whip it around and count the turns, that's 1, and that's 2, and that's 3.
The same center of the box before you put it in.
It's not a quick ratio. So that's 3 turns. That's about 4 turns. So about 4 1/4 turns on that box. So you take yourself a pin and you mark. Remember, there's a white dot that was on this. Find that white dot and mark it on this side over here. So it's about right there. So that white dot's here. Remember, it was over here when we started. So then, go ahead and turn this a little bit. Now we're going to count back halfway, and we want the mark on the actual rod here to be centered between the white dot when it was turned all the way this way and the other dot when it was turned all the way the other way. We want it in the middle for when we go to install it in the car. So let's count back. So that's 1, that's 2, and then 1/4, which then will be an 1/8, about like right there. And you can kind of see, hopefully I can zoom in, that dot is between those 2 dots. So we are halfway. That is the halfway mark. So now we can take this, and now we can set it in the car and start bolting it up. We also picked up a new rag joint for our steering box here. And so what's going to happen is this rag joint, this part here, slides onto here. This part goes onto the shaft. And this part here comes down. I believe it's like that. And then the bolts go in this way and attach to the steering column that's over here. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that in, and we'll take a look at what that looks like. So guys, I know it's already put in, the pump's in, we haven't put the belt on just yet, but the gearbox is in with the rag joint and everything. I didn't record installing it. It was just a little too much tight spaces to get a camera in there and show everything being hooked up. Look at some of the rubber bushings around the car. Those are probably the original bushings that were on the car. Of course, they've all been replaced since then, but just look how badly cracked they are after 50-some years of service. Put the rag joint onto the gearbox first, then line up the steering column and get those 2 bolts in. Get your pinch bolt in on the coupler, on the rag joint, and then throw in your power steering lines. The one with the crimped factory hose, that is your high pressure. The one with the just a little clip there, the hose clamp, that there is your low end. So that's where they go. One closer to the motor, one closer to the fender. But about an hour or so to get that all put in, and of course you have to put in your idler arm nut as well, which is like an inch and an eighth or an inch and a quarter inch bolt. Pretty big bolt. But anyways, that's putting that in, so that's good to go. Let's move up and do what's next. Okay, next is that pitman or idle arm. You have to get that big, and that's about a 32, maybe a inch and a quarter inch nut that has to go on there, and it doesn't go on all the way to the top. You gotta have some finger space, but I'm gonna tighten it up a little bit more, but it doesn't go all the way to the top, so you don't have to worry about cinching it to the top. And don't give me no shit about the Fram oil filter either, guys. That's before I knew better about wicks. And I think we're gonna see this thing. Watch the wheels turn. Well, before we hook the hoses up to the new power steering box, Bobby would just take both of them and put them off to the side, pour some power steering fluid in there. We're gonna bleed the power steering pump out as our plan. So let's give that a shot and see how that works out. It's probably the first time in 25 years since I had power steering fluid in the pump. Okay, and she's running clear. That was one whole quart of fluid, so let's hook those lines up. Okay, so your crimped line, high pressure, goes to the one closest to the front of the car, and your low pressure, which is just your hose attached there, goes to the low end. So we'll take our crow's foot, we'll get down in here, and we'll tighten these up. Okay, so we now have the lines hooked up to the new box. Rag joint is secure, the pinch bolt is secure, the 3 bolts that hold it to the frame is secure, and we've filled up our reservoir. Now just have your beautiful wife turn that steering wheel nice and slow, one way to the other. Just keep doing it. Keep turning the wheels. Yeah, so here I just had the wife get in, and she basically really slowly just turned that wheel all the way to one lock, and then back the other way, and did it several times, and just let that new box suck up as much of that fluid as it could. In the background, you hear that woof woof. That's our puppy Sierra. That was one of her barks, was just a woof woof woof. First time the wheels have turned. If you watch the fluid, you'll see the fluid go down. Even just from just rotating the wheels, it sucked down that power steering fluid. Sweet. Big moments back then, guys. Big, huge achievements and accomplishments. You know, that was good times. About to jump in the Firebird. Ignition key isn't in the dash just yet. Okay, we're almost there, guys.
And let's see if this girl can start up.
Let's turn this key on, and let's see if this girl can start up.
Here's our key. All right.
So at this point, everything is hooked up. This is going to be its first run with everything hooked up, ready to rock and roll. First start, with everything done. Give a little gas. Try it again. Gotta give a little bit of gas there. One more time. Talk about a beautiful sound. And my brother just had straight pipes on this. Left side went all the way back, right side went all the way back. There was no crossing over, and he had glass packs. That was a glorious moment, y'all. To see that thing fire up and run and idle, yeah, that was pretty badass.
The Firebird was a manual transmission car. And at some point in time,
No, it was not. It was a GH400 car.
we know this because the bin plate. And we know this because you can see the smaller pedal there, which means
Either my brother or the previous owner
with a clutch pedal.
put in a manual transmission or wanted to put in a manual transmission.
How are we going to shift until we can get a shifter here? So I've used the vice grip to hold onto the cable. And like right now it's in park, so if we grab it, so I do this with one hand, and if we pull it,
Yeah, this was one of my brilliant ideas until we could get a shifter, was I can just pull it in and out of gear wherever I needed to. Stupid, stupid.
So there we go, here we go. And then we're going to push this. Make this just a tad bit tighter.
Yeah, this was an absolute shit show of an idea. And there's more to the story. Maybe at a Firebird Fest or something, you can get me liquored up and then take me back to this moment and go, tell me more about that transmission and hand shifting fiasco and fenders getting dented, and yeah, that's over many drinks in person.
Park right there. The next one down.
There's probably a law out there still.
There would be reverse. Next one down would be neutral. That'd be your drive. That'd be second. and that there would be first.
You know, the funny thing was, I eventually got, and you'll see this in this video, a B&M shifter from a local photographer friend who also has a first-gen F-body, but a Camaro. He had an extra one. And so he was like, hey, you can have it.
We did it a couple weeks ago. It was full. So let's see what it looks like today. The car is up.
So I went to try to shift the car, and in drive, no movement at all. And so by checking the fluids, yep, it was low. So we needed to add more transmission fluid to this car. Eventually, Louis over at First Generation Garage sent me a 1968 shifter because the console I had when I picked up the car was not a 67 console. It was a 68 console. So again, I think my brother came upon a 68 Firebird in a junkyard in Oklahoma and was taking parts from that car to his car to convert it to what he wanted to have and enjoy. And eventually, Louis found a 67 shifter, and I happened to find a 67 console in California. And I drove my Porsche Cayenne Turbo all the way to California to do nothing more than stop at this single-wide trailer in this Podunk, California town, pick up the center console, and drive all the way back to Arizona, and $300 later in fuel. But I have a 67 center console and a 67 shifter now.
Let's see how she does. See if that will help loop some. Now this thing's been sitting for 25 years. Who knows what's been going on? But we checked it a few weeks ago, if you guys remember.
Yeah. 2 extra quarts. I think we got that torque converter filled up, and then we went back to looking at those wheels.
2 quarts in, and let's see what we got going now. Yep, that one's a moving. She's looking good. Let's go to the other side. More of that sexy ass there. And now this one's moving. This is moving a lot faster than the other one was. So a couple quarts of ATF is all we needed, hopefully, to get this bird to roll down. And now the wheel's not moving. What the hell? Maybe it is a posi run.
This is my frustration until I understood
we're installing
what was going on.
Aluminum radiator in the 67 Firebird. It was time to get rid of that rusty, old, leaky one.
So this was an Amazon radiator. It was like $99. The radiator that was in the car. Look at this. Look at the size of that hole in the top of that radiator. There was no way this radiator was going to keep this engine cool for any length of time. So damaged radiator, it had to come out. So let's out with the old and in with the new. One bolt held the entire radiator to the core support. One bolt.
Take this cap off here. Right, take this cap off. System's already drained out. You can see how much rust is in there. And we'll get these transmission cooler lines disconnected.
Wow, tons of rust in that whole cooling system.
Just one bolt is holding this in. I don't know if you can see that.
One bolt, holding up that entire radiator.
So let me grab a, looks like a half inch. Oh boy. There she is. Let's compare the old one to this new one I got. Well, here's our 2 radiators. Obviously, that is the old one. And of course, it can't be the original one, as this car came from the factory.
And of course, it probably was the original one, because as we know, the car was originally a automatic TH400 car from the factory.
Amazon special. There's a link down below if you have a 67, 68, or 69
first gen Camaro or Firebird enough body. That radiator supposedly will work. So for the most part, it looks like everything on this side is in the right spot. Let's flip them over and see. It's a little shorter. Alright, so they look sort of similar on these. I guess time will tell. We're going to mount those up and just take some measurements and see. Also check on that, that core support there. But for the most part, they look pretty close. Although on this side over here, you can see it's definitely off a little bit on that. So there's that gouge. It fit though. Not all 4 bolts and not all the correct cushions that should go onto metal on metal, but it worked. It worked while I was there. Yeah, just if it doesn't fit, just, make it fit. Of course, bought all new hoses. Trying to do right. Yes, we live kind of close to a airport. So yeah, you'll always hear airplanes in my videos. And again, remember, I bought hoses for a Camaro, thinking because it's a Chevy 350, but I probably should have bought Firebird hoses in the beginning. I eventually did go back and buy Firebird hoses, but for this one right here, it was Camaro hoses. Get that right there. I'll take this one. That right there. And we'll tighten these down. Well, I guess next is getting some air into these tires. These are the original, I don't know if they're original, but they're 14-inch tires. And I just went, as you know, when we picked the car up from Oklahoma, all 4 tires were completely shredded. Wouldn't even hold air. So I went down to a local used tire store here in town. Got 4 used tires. Each one's a little bit different. They're not all the same. But obviously, that's going to need some air, and I believe... Yeah, so I got 4 used tires over at Red's and Queen Creek, mom and pop type used tire store, but all 4 different sizes. We didn't have 4 that were, any 2 that were the same. So we picked 4 that were close enough. I just want to be able to put this car up on wheels and be able to move it around. She's down. We're getting close. She's down, gentlemen. All right, let's put some gas in her. And my poor puppy was so used to being in the garage with her dad, working on this car for the last 6 to 8 months, that nothing fazed her anymore when I would work around the car. She was a good puppy. I miss that Sierra girl. Get a gas cap. Eventually did get a new gas cap. All right, I should check the motor oil real quick. super exciting day when this happened. So we've changed the oil, we've filled up the transmission fluid, new radiator, new fuel pump, new starter. What else did we get? The brakes were done. We got all this squared away and made sure the rear diff was good. It's time. I think it's time. There's gas in the tank. Let's see what happens here.
So she's a little low. We're going to add just a. So she's a little bit to her.
Imagine that.
A little bit to her. All right, we'll add a little bit more oil.
Top her up. You can see in that fuel filter right there how brown it is. Just kind of give you an idea of how much crap was in the fuel lines even after I blew them out. Now we knew we had a small transmission leak, well, big transmission leak. So I'm gonna go ahead and just top off our transmission fluid as well. And unfortunately, the transmission has been a pain in the ass in this car since day one. And it's a whole new transmission, and it's still giving us fits. I learned. I started buying the gallon jugs instead of the quart jugs.
So
that
put our
won't
beer
work.
over here. No, that's not going to work.
Well, there went driving the car with the beer, huh? Now this is that B&M shifter. You can see how I have it monkey rigged in there with a vice grip and those washers. Again, let's do it.
Let's fire up. Nice.
Look how easy that engine starts.
Now, Keith, another drink for you.
Constantly doing drinks and shots with my brother on this project.
Okay, shut it. All right, KJ.
Like I was worried about
take
getting
your
it
bird
dirty.
for a ride.
So this is the first successful drive of this car. This happened end of May of 21.
There we go.
This is still emotional to watch it right now because it was a big moment of all the struggles just to get it to drive again and to feel like there was progress and I could do this. See all my little cheap Amazon GoPros that were like $39 a piece or whatever that I was using back then? And then the wife is holding up my iPhone to record this part of it. Don't forget, shirts are available for sale. Link down below. Buy yourself a couple shirts. Help me keep moving along while I'm out of work. Thank you, guys. Let's get back to this show. Inside the car view now. Look at that special moon roof, Swiss cheese roof. I think this is about the time that Jonathan from Vinyl Village Garage and I started chatting and becoming friends. It was about this time period right here. And it's still hard to steer that power steering never really, at first, it probably took a couple weeks before it came around. You can see my brother was smart like me. He put the screws back in at the top there for the visors. Here we go. Find the gear, Brian. Find the gear.
All right, here we go.
Look at that smile.
First drive. She's a going.
Yeah, talk about being happy.
No speedo.
Freaking
That's okay.
elated.
We're just gonna go around the block. This is freaking awesome. After picking this thing up from Oklahoma and dragging it back all those miles and all the struggles we had to get it here. Once we got it here, everything we had to do to get it to this point where we're at today. It's the 2nd of May 2021. We went and picked it up mid-September of 20, and we're driving.
So May 2nd, 2021.
We're driving her.
Picked it up in September of 20.
She's gonna need a lot of work. She's gonna need a new roof. All 4 corners need to be rebuilt. New shocks, new suspension. I think we pull the motor. I think we do some stuff with that. I'm just freaking excited as can be. Amber, Deb, Jason, all you guys, KJ, Keith, my brother.
Yep.
This ride's for you guys.
That first ride, still, I remember it.
Hot diggity damn dog. I'm smiling too much, I apologize. It's been a labor of love getting this together, and times I couldn't work on it because of
Never
work
apologize for smiling, man.
everything
Never
else,
apologize.
weather, and now I'm driving it around the block. I feel like Derek from Vice Grip's Garage, like I'm driving the shit. I didn't know who he was until after I got this and someone suggested I watch his videos. There's like no
And then
rubber
something
anywhere, so you
happened,
can hear all the
of
metal
course.
squeaking. And yeah, no.
That look of concern on my face. I had power, the engine was still running. I just wasn't moving. All that happiness and that disappointment. So I'm gonna park the car for a minute, and the wife's gonna come out, and she's gonna get behind the driver's seat. We're gonna push the car in. A neighbor, Seth, who has moved since then, but it had somehow, you can see the smoke. It had just dumped all of its transmission fluid here, where it's sitting right there in the video, and then just like around that corner, there was more big spots. So something happened, and it just started gushing out all of its transmission fluid, and that's what it did. I just lost all my fluid for whatever particular reason that was. But look at it smoking. That engine was not healthy. Good motor, still, probably could have just a simple rebuild, but Chevy 350, I didn't want it anymore. I wanted a Pontiac motor. I wanted to bring this car back to as close as I could to the way it was originally. So here's my wife, Jeannie. She's in the car, driving and steering, and I'm pushing the old bird back in the cage. And again, so the engine's not running at this point, so that power steering is not working. And you can see she's a little tiny thing and doing everything she can to turn that wheel in order to get this bird up into that driveway. And that is not a light car either. That is a solid American iron. Yeah, luckily Seth came over, and he's our neighbor and a pretty strong guy. And so the two of us, we got this car back inside the garage. And that was our first official drive of the car, getting it back home from Oklahoma. So from September of 20 to the first part of May of 21, getting everything just enough to drive it, not to restore just yet, because my head was still trying to figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and how to pull all this off, because I was trying to budget this. I didn't have a bunch of cash to throw at this car. And so how I was going to pull this off, what was the most economical way to pull this off, and did it. We did it. All right, guys, pretty cool to walk back down memory lane and check out those videos on getting that engine fired up for the first time. As you can see, there'd have been no possible way we could have gotten that engine running in a couple hours on a Saturday afternoon in a small town in Oklahoma when we did. So it was best we loaded it up and brought the car home. But the engine is running. Now it is smoking. It is everything else, as you can see in the video we just watched. But it was running and it was turning over. So it had potential. It had hope. The next video you're going to see is probably going to be on Friday for Firebird Friday Revisited. This one's going to be a long one. And again, take your time, watch the entire video. This is going to be getting all the little things done in order to take the car for its very first drive by itself around the block of the house. So that will be on Friday. Again, it's going to be around 1:15-ish Arizona time, and that's going to be around 4:30, 4:15-ish come Eastern time this Friday. Take a moment, guys, watch it. And again, shirts are available. Link down below. Buy yourself a couple. Help support the channel while I'm out of work and healing from an ankle injury that just happened, and now I have plates and screws and bolts and nuts and maybe a carburetor in there. I don't know. So until then, be good, and I will see you this Friday for another episode of Firebird Fridays Revisited.